I'm remiss, Mayor, in that it's now 6 o'clock.
Okay. Who are we missing from the council? Anybody? Nobody. Okay. Well, let's get started. Got a lot to talk about here with St. Croix Heights development project coming back to us. Carlos, you want to kick it off?
Sure, I'll actually hand it off to Lucy briefly there for the introduction.
So Carlos is going to focus on the plat that passed the Planning Commission and coming back to you this evening. But I wanted to give just a little bit of history about the project. So the preliminary plat came into our office in June of 2019, so almost 15 months ago. And that was brought forward to the Planning Commission and discussed extensively. There were some bluff land setbacks that they wanted reduced. The plat went to the Board of Adjustment and they granted a variance. And then this city council on September 3rd of 2019 overturned that variance. So over the next 4 to 5 months, the developer worked on redrawing their plan to see what they could come up with. And they actually came up with a plat that didn't require any variances. And that was presented to the Planning Commission on February 24th of 2020. We were then waiting to meet in person to go through all of our maps. And as you know, we haven't been able to meet in person, but we have gotten better at presenting things and sharing our screens and showing you the maps. So with that, Carlos can go into the details. I will say the developer's goal was to create a beautiful subdivision that met the needs of the city and the developer. And it consists of, I believe, 73 lots. And again, no variance requests for bluff setback or streets in the bluff. And with that, Carlos will go into the details of this.
Thank you, Lucy, and evening, Mayor and Council. In addition to myself, I have a brief presentation here. I'll be available for questions, as well as the applicant petitioner is on the line as well if there are questions at this pre-council meeting here. So the updated St. Croix Heights preliminary plat that Lucy referenced again is addressed actually at 0 Garvin Heights Road. It's adjacent to the existing Meadows subdivision and Buck Ridge Drive and across the road from the Crestview subdivision. As Lucy mentioned, it was last in front of council September 3rd, 2019, so just over a year ago. At that time, council was reviewing variance requests for 3 different things. First of all, 50-foot setback to the bluff top, a variance request to that. Also a variance request to replacement requirements for road and bluffland areas and replacement requirements related to stormwater facilities in bluffland areas. After denial of the request, as Lucy mentioned, the applicant redesigned the subdivision so that the updated plan does not require any variances. And that's because there's no requested variance to the top of bluff 50-foot setback, so they're meeting that. Also, all roads were located to outside the bluffland overlay, and this really just related to one specific road right as it came into the subdivision that was moved further to the north, so that it is outside of the bluffland areas. And finally, the plat will preserve permeable surfaces in non-bluffland areas to serve as a replacement for stormwater facilities in bluffland areas. Again, St. Croix Heights preliminary plat, 73 lots in total, 12 in phase 1. That includes 3 twin homes and 6 single-family homes, and then 61 in future phases to be developed in the coming years. Lot sizes, a mix of twin home lots from 8,700 to 19,000 square feet. Single family in phase 1, 14,810 feet plus, and then additional single family homes in future phases, 9,500 square feet plus. The first section, phase 1 that I've briefly referenced, is outlined in blue here. It is essentially the second portion of the Meadows subdivision that was never built. That would be phase 1 of St. Croix Heights, with future phases occurring immediately to the west, and then building it on out through the south to complete the subdivision in coming years. The subdivision is being processed under our cluster ordinance due to its interaction with the bluff tops. The cluster ordinance allows variation in setback standards to preserve open space and respect the physical qualities of the land while still permitting needed residential development in the city. For this process, the Planning Commission reviews and recommends variations to code, and council makes the final decision. So under that ordinance, the developer is requesting variations to the front yard setback, side yard setback, and rear yard setback, as shown on the screen. The Planning Commission, upon review, did recommend approval of those requested variations. In addition, the developer is asking for some variations to the city's subdivision standards. The first is a variation to the right-of-way width. The standard is 60. The developer is proposing 50. Pavement width, the standard is 36. The developer is proposing 32. Curb and gutter, traditional curb and gutter is typically required in subdivisions. The developer is proposing swales adjacent to pavement. The Planning Commission reviewed these subdivision variations and recommended approval of the first three, but did not recommend approval of the fourth one, which is sidewalks. The developer is proposing to not include sidewalks in the subdivision. The Planning Commission recommended sidewalks on at least one side of the street. In the Planning Commission's consideration to include sidewalks, there are four different things that the Planning Commission took a look at. First of all, city ordinance does require installation on sidewalk of collector type streets within a subdivision. That was a change that was made in 2017 with the update of our Unified Development Code. Second, the petitioner is requesting reductions to required setbacks and right-of-way width. These reductions allow for more buildable area and lot density. Third, the petitioner is requesting a reduction in pavement width and no curb and gutter. The reduction in pavement width does save the cost of 23,660 square feet of pavement and 5,900 feet of curbing on both sides of the street. And finally, of course, sidewalks do provide a non-street option for subdivision residents and families to walk, and they also provide a connection to potential public trails in the outlots of the subdivision. In terms of road design, this is what the developer is proposing: a 32-foot wide paved surface. Adjacent to that, you have the proposed swales. And on one side of the typical roadway cross-section as recommended by the Planning Commission would be a 5-foot sidewalk with a 1-foot space between that sidewalk and property line. That sidewalk would be maintained by individual property owners, the same as in the core area of the city. This is a map showing where sidewalks are recommended by the Planning Commission. You'll note that they extend from one length of the subdivision to the beginning of the subdivision as well. Again, it provides connectivity both within the subdivision, but then also to the outlot areas which are proposed for future park and trail use. For future park and trail use, our park dedication ordinance requires either dedication of land or a fee in lieu for new residential subdivisions. In this case, the petitioner is proposing to dedicate 6 outlots to the city totaling 29 acres instead of paying the fee, which would be approximately $43,800. Those outlots are shown in yellow here. They are similar to what the council saw a year ago in terms of area that would be dedicated to the city. At that time, city staff did take a look at the lots and did do kind of a reconnaissance tour to check them out, and they are potentially suitable for hiking and or mountain biking trails in the future. So those lots would be dedicated to the city at no cost. Staff and the commission are recommending acceptance of the outlots due to potential for public trails, as I mentioned. Some other considerations. First is future trail access. Staff and the commission are recommending addition of a 20-foot wide outlot or easement adjacent to L1B5. That's the Lot 1, Block 5, just as you enter the subdivision on the west-hand side of the road. For a future 10-foot wide shared use path adjacent to Garvin Heights Road. The thought here is a connection to the Bluffs Traverse Trail, which extends currently in plans from Garvin Heights all the way through the Crestview subdivision. If that were built out further to the west, it would most likely run on the northern side of Garvin Heights Road up to Highland Drive, and then cross over to the south and run further on the south side of County Road 44 due to slope considerations. So that is a recommendation that was approved by the Planning Commission. And finally, stormwater considerations. The proposed ponding locations in the subdivision are shown in blue. The stormwater ponds would relate to future phases of the subdivision, as the phase 1, which is outlined in the light blue color in the bottom right-hand side of your screen, has already been accounted for in the Meadows subdivision stormwater facilities. So the ponds will be constructed in the future as future phases of the development are constructed. In terms of stormwater, the exact number, size, and location of stormwater facilities will be determined following preliminary plat approval. City Engineering Office will ensure that all ponds meet city ordinance requirements, and final plats will be reviewed by both the Planning Commission and City Council. The Director of Public Works and the City Sustainability Coordinator have reviewed the preliminary locations of water ponds and do find them acceptable.
Yeah, it's an informational meeting here.
Carlos, I hear people talking in the background. It's really hard to hear you. Someone's TV or
Does
phone.
anyone have the Zoom password so we can watch this? We need the Zoom password to get in.
It's 207-207 is the password.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're back on here.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. So I just went through the slide here, essentially, basically outlining the review process between the preliminary and final plats, and the city process of ensuring that everything complies with city ordinances. So in summary, the developer is requesting front yard, side yard, and rear yard setbacks, as well as right-of-way, pavement width, curb and gutter variations. In addition, the petitioner is requesting to not install sidewalks. However, the Planning Commission did recommend approval with the addition of sidewalks. The commission also recommended adopting or accepting 29 acres of land instead of the park dedication fee. And finally, the commissioner recommended a 20-foot wide outlot or easement adjacent to County Road 44 for future trail connection purposes. That's all I have right now. Thank you.
So we open it up for questions. I'll start. Carlos, will these trails connect to any other trails? You know?
Is someone talking? Because I can't hear anything. Can you hear me? Is anyone talking there?
I can't hear anyone either, Michelle.
Yeah, I can't either.
Okay, I thought I was the only one. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I just need to get closer to the microphone here. The question from Mayor Peterson was if the trails will connect to any other lots or any other trails. They are going to be internal to the subdivision, so they would be within the outlot areas. There would be connections to the outlots. So you could go from one major outlot area to another and kind of do a loop. There would be a connection in the future to any type of extension of the Bluffland Traverse Trail.
Okay, thank you.
Al here with a few questions.
Carlos, and maybe
Go ahead, Paul.
Ryan can answer this too. I have two questions. They're kind of related. It's about the stormwater facilities. Will the swales, how are they being drained? And then secondly, is that actually the boulevard? Are the swales the boulevard, or does the sidewalk come up to the street pavement?
Jake, I'll go ahead and let you touch on what's going to happen for stormwater. This is Jake. He's our in our engineering department for Johnson and Schofield. Jake Perrine.
I didn't get that.
All right, I'll touch on.
We didn't hear that.
So the sidewalks
Sorry,
are
Jake.
on,
Jake, I'm
closer to your
get
mic.
closer to the microphone.
sorry. So the sidewalks are actually draining, the sidewalks will be on the outside of the right of way. And so the swales will be between the sidewalk and the road, and they will drain underneath them via either culverts or storm pipes. But that's stuff that will be designed later on during the actual design phase after the approval.
Thank you.
Al here with.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Al.
Oh, thank you. I didn't hear you. Relating to the whole idea of swales, I don't think the city has any other developments that use swales as a method of carrying off stormwater. We use traditional curb and gutter in most places. I know that perhaps there's some in the rural areas that use swales, and I'm really a couple of questions. How wide are the swales going to be? What's the potential for standing water? How do they affect snow plowing? How do you propose using culverts or bridges over, access to the individual lots from the roads in the development?
So a lot of that stuff is what would come during the final design phase, but just the general thought right now is that there would be culverts underneath the driveway accesses, and then the ditch depths and the widths of them will be designed during the design phase. We'll make sure that they drain and that there's no issues with any runoff down the line.
I think what I've read about swales is that they have a tendency to either be cared for by the property owner, cared for by the municipality, or they get overgrown or they get, non-functional. I know they have a good way of absorbing the runoff, which is a good thing, but I'm a little concerned about that because, again, we've had a traditional curb and gutter or drive over curb and system in the community. So again, that would be my point going forward.
Mayor?
Oh, go ahead.
Jake, just want to get back to the swales again. So one of the, when you're coming up with the design, because we have some of these in West Burns Valley and West Burns Valley roads. And one of my concerns is when the culverts running underneath the driveways, they're very close to the edge of the paved drive. And what I've seen cars back up or drive right off their pavement and then end up straddling the culvert in the swale. And so will that be widened out? Just think about that when you're designing, because it is a problem with vehicles coming off their drive.
Jake, do you want to touch just a bit on the beehive option that we discussed? Again, this will all be worked out and submitted to the city engineer for approval, but just to give you an idea of one thing that we would do once we take a look at the grading and the runoff is put the most suitable thing in place. And just one more idea that we were talking about. Jake, if you could just touch on that.
So an issue that came up was just due to the width of the right of way, the ditches were going to be pretty constrained with like how deep they could be. And we want the rural feel, the subdivision, but we don't necessarily want deep ditches that become a hazard for cars or anything. So one thing we've been discussing is once we start in the design phase, we'll actually install storm sewer like under the ditches with pipe, and then have inlets with like those beehive type catch basins. And that way the ditches don't need to be as deep as they normally would if they were just conveying water normally.
Thank you.
Al here with just a comment.
Go ahead, Al.
Thank you, Mayor. I should have prefaced my remarks by saying that I appreciate very much the effort that your company and the developer has gone through to make this possible. So don't construe my comments as being entirely negative for the whole development. We're just trying to make it fit and be successful for everybody involved. So thank you.
Mayor, Eileen here.
Go ahead, Eileen.
I have a question about, I don't think, Carlos, you mentioned this, but it's to do with the cluster development. And one of the things that's in our council packet is about open space intended for recreation and public use shall be easily accessible to pedestrians. And and it mentions handicapped and the elderly. And so just as like as a general concern that I hope will be addressed is when I see something that says easily accessible without any sort of specific naming of criteria to follow, such as ADA recommendations, then I get nervous that that is purely subjective and might not actually be compatible to people who have wheelchairs or motorized scooters or things like that. So I know Brian and Jake, you're saying there's still a lot of things that need to be planned for, and that's just a concern I have, especially with, you know, all the developments that we have coming up, that there is some sort of specific criteria that is followed that we know will work for people who may have different mobility needs.
Definitely, and I can respond to that. In part, that's one reason why sidewalks are recommended in the subdivision, to allow that accessibility and connectivity throughout the subdivision, and also to some of the outlot areas. The outlot areas do have steep slopes, so probably wouldn't be navigable for somebody in a wheelchair, but that could be an area that is accessed by someone in a wheelchair. And could be enjoyed, the vistas, the views, and it would be public land, so it would be accessible.
Mayor, this is
Thank you.
Pam. I have a question.
Go ahead, Pam.
Yes, this has really changed a lot since the last time we saw it, and I appreciate all the work that's gone in to make it more environmentally suitable to the place that it is. But it is still situated on the very top of a hillside, top of a bluff. And so we're depending on these ponds for the second and third phases. We're depending on these retention ponds to hold the water that drains from these swales and perhaps from the storm pipes. But during a really big rain, are those retention ponds likely to hold? Is that a likely solution to the problem? And if the pond does not hold, what's down below it? Thank you. That's my question.
Jake, you could maybe touch on this, but yeah, why don't you touch on the stormwater ponds, how they're designed?
All right, so the ponds are designed to hold a 100-year storm event, as well as having proper emergency overflow outlets in case there is just some massive, like, once in a 500-year storm or something that would overwhelm them. And all these ponds are situated up above the heavily wooded, kind of brush sloped areas, and they would all just end up draining down out of the subdivision after being held in the ponds.
Excuse me, yes, just a follow up there. So what is down below? So it drains out of the subdivision into the woods, but where does it go? Is there something in the way of all this water is what I'm asking.
And the way these are laid out is they go down the natural drainage ways now, so it wouldn't be water in new areas. Their ponds are set up to go down what would be a natural swale. And to kind of echo Jake's comments, the levees that are built with these will be to levee standard. They're built to hold that 100-year flood and all that water back. So when you build these things, they're designed to hold all that water too, so they should not breach.
Who has to give final approval to these ponds?
We do.
Just the city, okay.
Yep.
We probably have time for another question. If anybody has one? If not, we'll start again in 5 minutes. Oh, Brian?
I just wanted to touch on the sidewalks. I can do that now, or I can do that in the public hearing, however you guys want to do it.
Well, can you do it in 2 minutes?
Probably not. We should maybe just wait.
Okay. Well, why don't we save it for the public hearing then?
Sounds good. Thank you.
Mark, may I ask you a question not related to this topic?
Sure.
Is it possible when the person's speaking that they remove their mask? I know you guys are trying to social distance in the council chambers, but it's really hard to understand all of you clearly with the mask on. So is it possible when you guys are speaking, we can just move it down a little bit so we can hear you a little bit better at home? I don't know if the other council people are having the same problem I am, but it gets a little muddled.
Are you having trouble hearing me?
Right now it sounds really good, but there's times when it sounds a little muffled and some of the words are kind of muddled. It's not you necessarily, but some of the, like, it worked really well when Brian pulled his mask off when he was making the presentation, but when it goes back on, it's hard to understand what he's saying.
Well, I'll leave that up to the individuals, but I'm going to leave my mask on and try to speak louder.
Well, I can hear you really well right now. So
Okay.
if that's the way you're gonna speak, that's perfect.
Okay. I think if we all just speak up, we can probably be okay. But if you're having trouble hearing us, speak up.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
All right. Well, we've got 4 minutes, so we'll reconvene in 4 minutes.
Two minutes, Mayor, 2 minutes. One minute, Mayor, 1 minute.
I clicked on these participants, Bradley. Yep. How do I get rid of it now?
Yeah. See the arrow on the top right?
Yeah.
And then click that arrow.
Or the X?
Nope, don't hit that. See the arrow on the, to the left of participants, the word participants.
This?
Yep. It calls.
Oh.
Very good.
All right, thank you.
I figured out how to get it so I can see the list and people. We have to make this a lot easier for people to find.
6:30, Mayor, 6:30.
All right, 6:30. Call the meeting to order. We'll stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, just a couple of announcements. 6:30, I called the meeting to order. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Winona City Council and is being held via conference call pursuant to Minnesota statutes 13D.021 in response to the COVID-19 emergency. Let me please remind those who are on the conference call line, please mute your phones until you're asked to speak. Also, please identify yourself before you speak. As required by the statute, all votes will be conducted by roll call, so each member's vote on each issue can be identified and recorded. Also, if at any time a council member is not able to hear the discussion or one another, please interrupt me immediately to indicate so. Also, just a reminder to state your name before you speak so that you are easily identified. And I'd like to also announce that we do have one council member present, at-large Councilman Paul Schollmeyer is here tonight. Couple of announcements I'd like to make tonight include the fact that there are a number of upcoming flu shots opportunities. They're going to be at various places around the city, and there's multiple dates this month, and it's all identified on our website, the city website. Also, this weekend, put a plug in for the Historical Society Cemetery Walk at Woodlawn Cemetery, both Saturday and Sunday from noon to 5. It's history at a distance. It's being conducted quite differently than other years. There's more sites, more actors, but they're spread out throughout the entire cemetery. And if you buy your ticket, you're welcome to go. You get a map and you go in whatever order you want. So it's easily done. Supposed to be a beautiful weekend. Great time to be in one of the most beautiful cemeteries in the Midwest and learn a little bit about local history as well and help the society out. So with that, I'm going to ask the city manager if he has anything.
I do, Your Honor. Thank you. Staff is continuing to work to reopen City Hall to some extent to the public and also the library. The library is being affected though by MEA week, and so there's some staffing shortages, but we're trying really hard to get it open. At least the first phase would be for use of electronic devices, computers, printers, that sort of thing. City Hall is challenged because of the scaffolding that's down on the first floor, and that affects our ADA accessibility. But as soon as these get resolved, we'll be in touch with the public to let them know how they can start to access these buildings. And secondly is Fire Prevention Week is this week. And while they're not doing station tours like we've done in the past, they did a tour on video. And so there's a YouTube video, and I believe it's probably on the Facebook page for the fire department, but we'll try to get that up on the city's website as well. Kind of an interesting look at the equipment and that the firefighters use. So if people can take advantage of Fire Prevention Week and the theme for this year, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll now ask the city clerk to take roll call. Members of the city council are either present in the council chambers or participating by conference call. Please indicate your presence by stating here as the city clerk calls your name.
Mayor Mark Peterson.
Here.
Councilman Thurley.
Here.
Moeller.
Here.
Alexander.
Here.
Iden.
Here.
Borzakowski.
Here.
Schollmeyer.
Here.
All right, and I'd also like to continue here with a brief note about our public hearings. We do have one tonight, and for each public hearing, staff will make a short presentation and then I will ask if anyone from the public wishes to speak to the matter. You must clearly state your name and address, and you'll be given up to 3 minutes to make your testimony. I will call 3 times for public comments. Once the hearing is closed, the public may not participate in any discussion by the city council. And council, if you wish to make a motion, state the following. I, give your name, move to approve the attached resolution or the proposed ordinance or request. To second the motion, state aye in your name and second the motion. And with that, we'll begin our business.
Under the required public hearings, item 2.1 is the preliminary cluster development plan for St. Croix Heights subdivision.
And we'll start with Lucy. Well, I'll declare the public hearing open first, and then I'll open it up for Lucy.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I did give a brief history about this development that came to the planning department in June of 2019. It does address many of our housing needs for single family lots. It went to preliminary plat in June of 19, then to the Board of Adjustment for a variance, and then to council in September of 2019. And the city council overturned the BOA's decision, and it went back to the drawing board. So for the last 4 to 5 months, the developer, their engineering people have been working and communicating with our staff to come up with a plan that meets the city requirements without variances. And the goal, of course, is to have a new subdivision that meets the needs for the community. And with that, I'll defer to Carlos.
Evening, Mayor and City Council. For this item here, it's a public hearing on the updated St. Croix Heights preliminary plan that Lucy briefly introduced. Again, the St. Croix Heights preliminary plan is a subdivision that is proposed for the address 0 Garvin Heights Road, which is just west to of the existing Meadows subdivision and Buck Ridge Drive, and across County Road 44 from the Crestview subdivision. As Lucy mentioned, this was last in front of council on September 3rd of 2019, so just over a year ago. At that time, the council was reviewing variance requests for 3 things. First of all, to the 50-foot required bluff top setback. Second, to replacement requirements for road and bluffland areas. And third, to replacement requirements for stormwater facilities in bluffland areas. After denial of the request by council, the applicant redesigned the subdivision so that the updated plan requires no variances. And this is because there is no requested variance to the 50-foot top of bluff setback requirement. All roads have been relocated outside of the bluffland overlay. And finally, the plat will preserve permeable surfaces in non-bluffland areas to serve as a replacement for stormwater facilities or ponds in bluffland areas. Again, the St. Croix Heights preliminary plan has 73 lots to it, 12 in phase 1, which consists of 3 twin homes and 6 single family homes, and then 61 lots in future phases, which would be single family. The lot sizes for the twin home lots range from 8,700 to 19,000 square feet. For a single family in phase 1, 14,810 square feet plus. And in future phases, single family homes on lots of 9,500 square feet plus. The phase 1 for the development is in the lower right-hand side of the screen, area of the screen that is outlined in the blue. This is essentially the second phase of the Meadows subdivision that was never built. So that would serve as phase 1 for the St. Croix Heights development. From then on, the subdivision would proceed to the west and then through the property to the south as additional phases are completed in the future. This preliminary plat is being processed under our cluster ordinance in city code. The cluster ordinance allows variation in setback standards to preserve open space and respect the physical qualities of the land while still permitting needed residential development in the city. Again, the Planning Commission reviews and recommends variations per the cluster ordinance, but the council makes the final decision. So the developer, the petitioner is requesting a variation to the front yard setback, side yard setback, and rear yard setback for the St. Croix Heights subdivision. Each one of those were reviewed by the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission did recommend approval of these variations under the cluster ordinance requirements. In addition, the developer is requesting a few variations to the subdivision standards. The petitioner is requesting variations to the right-of-way width, pavement width, and curb and gutter requirements. The Planning Commission did review those requirements and recommended approval of the first three, but also took a look at sidewalks. The petitioner is proposing to not have sidewalks in the subdivision, but the Planning Commission did recommend sidewalks be installed on one side of the street within the development. This is a typical roadway cross-section in the development. You'll see in the center of the screen, you have a 32-foot wide pavement width, and then you have swales, drainage swales on both sides. And on one side of the street would be a 5-foot wide sidewalk with a 1-foot space to the individual's property line. The sidewalks would be maintained by individual property owners, same as in the core area of Winona. Again, as I mentioned, the sidewalks are proposed on one side of the street within the subdivision. The sidewalks would provide connectivity both within the subdivision and then to outlot areas that are proposed for future trail and mountain bike development within the subdivision. City ordinance does require either dedication of land or fee in lieu for new residential subdivisions. The petitioner is proposing to dedicate 6 outlots to the city. Those are the outlots that would be for future trail development, totaling 29 acres instead of paying the park dedication fee, which in this case would be approximately $43,800. The land designated for public dedication is shown in yellow on your screens. Again, that totals approximately 29 acres. This is similar to what the council saw approximately a year ago when it was first reviewing this preliminary plat. And at that time, staff did some field work to go and see if they would in fact be suitable for hiking and biking in the future. And the good news is they would. So these outlots would be dedicated as part of the plat to the public at no cost. And staff and commission are recommending acceptance of the land due to its potential use for public trails in the future. Other considerations for the plat, the first is future trail access. Staff and the commission are recommending addition of a 20-foot wide outlot or easement adjacent to L1B5, which is lot 1, block 5. Essentially, that's the lot on the right-hand side when you first enter the subdivision, for a future 10-foot wide shared use path adjacent to Garvin Heights Road. The idea being with the Blufflands Traverse plan and the trail that's included in that plan, which currently goes from Sugarloaf to the Crestview subdivision approximately. If it were extended to the west, it would most likely run along the north side of Garvin Heights Road and then skip over to the south side of Garvin Heights Road, west of Highland Drive due to slope considerations. So this recommendation for a 20-foot wide outlot or easement would facilitate that trail connection in the future. Also, stormwater considerations. The city requirements require stormwater within the subdivision to be controlled so that there's no increase in rate of runoff post-development. The phase 1 for the development that is outlined in blue at the bottom of your screen has already been taken care of in terms of stormwater requirements by the existing drainage facilities in the Meadows subdivision. So the stormwater improvements that are shown in the rest of the plat would be constructed in the future. In terms of those stormwater facilities, the exact number, size, and location of stormwater facilities would be determined following the preliminary plat approval. The city engineer will ensure that all ponds meet city ordinance requirements, and final plats will be reviewed by both the Planning Commission and City Council. So the final location of those ponds will be not only reviewed by staff, but also by the Planning Commission and City Council. And finally, the Director of Public Works and City Sustainability Coordinator have reviewed the preliminary locations for the stormwater facilities or for the ponds and do find them acceptable due to the topography of the land and existing drainage patterns. So in summary, the petitioner is requesting a couple of variations at the top to setbacks, as well as variations to right-of-way width, pavement width, and then requirements for curb and gutter. The Planning Commission did, however, recommend approval with the addition on sidewalks on one side of the road. And also, as I mentioned, recommended accepting the 29 acres of outlot land instead of the park dedication fee. And finally, the commission recommended the 20-foot wide outlot adjacent to County Road 44 for future trail connection purposes. Council options tonight. The first would be to approve the plan as recommended by the Planning Commission. Under this option, a motion to adopt the resolution of approval that's included in your packets would be in order. You could also modify the plan or the recommendations of the Planning Commission. Under this option, a motion to adopt the attached resolution with modified findings and or conditions would be in order. You could also deny, citing specific reasons related to the proposal and city code requirements, or postpone if more information is needed. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Carlos. We'll open it up for others to speak. Be sure to state your name and address. Is there anybody that wishes to speak?
I'd like to speak. My name is Brian Woodley. I'm with Johnson and Schofield representing developers.
I'm having a hard time hearing you, Brian. Could you speak into your closer to mic?
Yeah, I'm getting closer. Is that better?
Not much, no.
Okay. I'll try to get as close as I can. Is this any better?
Yes, it was a little bit.
Well, yeah, maybe a little bit, not much.
Okay. Carlos, can you let me share screen at all?
I don't know what you said.
Okay. Let me work on this and have someone else go ahead.
I can actually hear you better now.
Yeah, actually.
Okay. How's this right now?
That's better.
That's perfect, Brian.
Okay.
You can go and share your screen.
I'm not gonna move my head, so.
Okay.
That's perfect, Brian. You can go ahead and share your screen too.
Okay. So thanks for having us back here. We really wanted to meet in person. That's why we tried to put off doing this with everybody. But unfortunately, that doesn't seem like that's going to happen anytime soon. So is the current proposed design on the screen as right now? Okay,
yes.
great. So staff did a great job touching on the work that was done with staff and with the Planning Commission for us to be able to eliminate the variances that were asked for. In order to do that, we made, I guess, a lot of different changes to the subdivision. We had to rearrange lots and take some lots out, and then in turn put cut lots in half to make up numbers. I can just point out a few things that we did without being too long. This was one of the original designs that we had. If you see in this area, in what's block 7, if you can see my cursor, these lots were longer and larger. We had a reduced setback to make all the buildable areas of these lots larger for development. And we also had this road coming through the bluff land. What we have done, since the variances were not granted, is that we had to make all this work within the UDC code as it is right now. And so the current proposed design makes that all happen. If we go back to where I first began, these lot sizes were reduced in order to move this road down to create more buildable area in these lots. That wouldn't have been buildable anymore without the variance. And in turn, this road 4, was raised up out of the bluff area, which reduced these lot sizes. And we did a bunch of shuffling throughout here as well to accommodate, to make them buildable. And then lastly, we did have one of the roads coming off Buckridge Drive, and we completely removed that from the bluff land area and slid that up within the proposed lots, to which then we had to have the size of these lots here in order to accommodate that. So one of the main things I want to touch on is the sidewalks. This development group does not want to put sidewalks in as part of the development. And I just wanted to point some stuff out for your consideration on that issue. The whole idea of the subdivision is for it to be a rural development. In this area, if you look at the development, our proposed development is here in red. And we've put on examples of all the other rural subdivisions that are close and within the city limits. We have some near our development and then some over more on the southeastern side of the city. And we put 19 examples of these with ours to compare to. And I'm going to take you over to a sheet that was part of your packet. Of these 19 subdivisions, none of them currently have any sidewalks as part of their development. And so like these subdivisions, we're trying to make this one have that rural development feel like all the rest of these. I'm going to take us back to the actual. One second here. Okay, we're back to the current proposed design. So with sidewalks, the feel that is, there are public walking through a portion of what is your yard. With a rural subdivision, we feel like the owners of these properties are going to desire privacy, want a sidewalk-free area.
I'm not hearing you very well, Brian.
Okay, I leaned forward a little bit. How's this?
He's gonna look left. He's gonna like speak left.
Oh,
Speaking
left.
Okay, so like over here?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, that may be where the mic is. I'll try to speak this way.
So much better.
Okay, thank you for putting up with this. I'm trying. What I was saying is, the idea of the subdivision is to have the grassed and landscape areas go to the streets that are maintained by the landowners. It's visually greener and gives it more rural character. One of the main points that was brought up where we were trying to get these variances is concern with runoff and environment, and adding sidewalks where they're proposed. And I'll bring up that visual here just one more time so you can take a look. These are the areas where they would add a sidewalk to one side of the street. If we were to put in 5-foot sidewalks in all these areas, it would add 28,000 square feet of impervious surface to the development. And where you have more impervious surface, you're going to create more runoff. That can affect pond sizes and different things that we have to do to accommodate that extra runoff. Another issue is there's a lot of snow and a lot of wind in these areas in the wintertime. We took a look, and due to the shape of the lots, 10 of the lots are going to have over 300 feet of sidewalk to clear with snow, with most of the lots having over 100 feet. This is one lot in particular here that would have 107 feet of snow to shovel out in front on this side, and then another 232 feet along this side to clear. The city would also have a responsibility of clearing sidewalk. Outlot E is a proposed outlot that's going to be dedicated to the public, and it would be the city's responsible to clear this. And there is over 500 feet of walk that traverses this outlot that would have to be cleared each time it snows or each time the wind would drift over that sidewalk. That would be the city's responsibility. And lastly, there's a big emphasis on making affordable lots, and we have tried to reduce costs in order to make these lots affordable. And with the design changes we had to do, the reduction in lot sizes, the struggle to keep these affordable is harder and harder as we go. So any cost that we can avoid, that we don't have to pass along to potential citizens and potential people that are going to live here to make these more affordable is a really an emphasis we want. And just wanted you to take that into consideration when you're discussing the sidewalks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Others that wish to speak? Anybody else wish to speak? One more chance. Anybody else wish to speak? If so, state your name and address. Well, hearing none, I'm going to declare the public hearing closed and open it up for discussion among the council.
Councilman Schulmeyer.
Go ahead, Paul.
So, for those of us who live in town, you know, a lot of us are pretty used to shoveling snow. And so I'm sorry, I just don't, the whole shoveling the sidewalk argument just doesn't wash with me. I had a 40 by 170 foot in town sidewalk to shovel when I was growing up, and didn't seem to have any issue with it. And that's right here in town. I don't know why snow clearing would be an issue. I do appreciate the additional impermeable surface argument. And so if the water is draining off this area and it's going into ponds, looks like there are a number of ponds, and I do have some concern with pond maintenance. As a former soil water board supervisor, you know, landowners are having issues with ponds that were built in the 70s, and they got to be cleared out. And at whose expense in 10 or 20 years? So that's my first question. Anybody?
I think those are details that have to be worked out as part of as this plan goes forward. Typically, the city takes over those systems because they are part of the stormwater system, and the homeowner pays a stormwater charge.
Yeah, and as the way this is proposed, those outlots do contain the stormwater ponds, so I'm assuming they're planning on dedicating all that to the city.
Correct. So one thing we have to make sure in the final design is we have an easier access to get down there to clean them out with the equipment that we would need.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
In phase one, I noticed there are some twin homes. Is it possible that I saw a bunch of large lots, which would require a lot of shoveling? Could those lots be made smaller to allow for more homes and make it easier to shovel the walks, and then you can get more homes in the subdivision?
Go ahead, Brian.
Hi. Yeah, as the preliminary plat is laid out right now, they're showing single family lots. They will be developed in phases though. And so when a final plat comes in, after all the engineering, the hydraulics and things, years have gone by. If the group sees fit that they want to do something like that, I believe that is an option where we can come back to council with kind of an updated layout of the lots, but still true to this preliminary plat that could show twin homes like that. And that would be up to the developer if they would want to do that, and then with the city's approval.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Al?
Eileen, oh, sorry, Al.
No, go ahead, Eileen.
Go ahead, Eileen.
I agree with Councilman Schulmeyer. I don't think it's a lot of shoveling is a great argument for or against sidewalks, nor do I feel that you know, because no one else has them is a great argument. I understand the precedent, but I personally feel pretty strongly that sidewalks are a part of making neighborhoods safer for people to get off the street. I've lived in neighborhoods where there aren't sidewalks, and even though it's supposed to feel rural, people drive like how they always drive, and it's not safe if you're doesn't feel safe if you're walking along them, or if you're someone who has small children, or you have a dog or an elderly person. It's just I think having somewhere where people can traverse their neighborhood, and if people really want that much privacy, then I don't like a very rural remote setting, then I don't know why they would be moving into a dense neighborhood anyway. So I agree with what the Planning Commission is requesting, and that we should have some sidewalks available for people. Thank you.
Councilman Thurley.
Go ahead, Al.
I concur with Councilperson Mueller on the sidewalks. I think this is something where the trends come and go. And we've seen obviously in the yearly development over time, in the historic Winona, sidewalks were important. And in some subdivisions, probably from the 60s to the 90s, there was a trend toward no sidewalks and more grass to mow. But I think the trend is coming back because sidewalks unify neighborhoods and neighbors. And Councilperson Mueller correctly pointed out the safety issue. Yes, it's a residential area, but drivers being drivers, having that separation would be very, very valuable, at least on one side of the street. So I support the recommendation from the Planning Commission with those changes or those caveats to it.
Mark, Michelle Alexander.
Good, Michelle.
I actually was a strong proponent of putting sidewalks back into development, even in neighborhoods that are adjacent to neighborhoods where they don't exist, for several reasons. Because yes, the safety issue, but when people are looking to purchase homes, they're not always thinking of where their children or where they will walk their pets. What they're looking at is a house that might become a home. And I think it's the responsibility of the city to say, this is what's going to make that neighborhood safer in the long run. And I don't like shoveling either, but it's never stopped me from purchasing a home. And I think you're right. Some people will look at the size of the lot and say, I'm going to buy on the other side, and some won't care, and some won't even notice the size of the sidewalk until the first snowfall. So I think you get a mixed bag with that argument anyway. But even knowing that, I would still advocate for sidewalks. I hear from quite a few people up in Skyline and Crestview that move in there with their families and then realize that there's no place for their kids to ride bikes. And those neighborhoods became so dense that there's so much traffic that it actually becomes less safe, which I think in a real true rural setting, that isn't the case. I think you can actually walk, run, ride your bikes on those streets, and there's very little traffic. And that's just not the case on Garvin Heights. So I'm in favor of the development. I'm so pleased that you found a way to bring it back and to develop that land in a way that's going to benefit our community. Certainly, we are very short on housing supply right now. And I think this is exactly what the community is screaming for. I can't give on the sidewalks for many of the reasons I've already heard, but just from a personal perspective, I think cities, particularly communities and developments inside cities, should have sidewalks, even if they go nowhere other than the neighborhood they're in. And if it's okay, I would make a motion to approve the attached resolution recommended by the Planning Commission and accept the 5 attachments.
Councilman Thurley, I second that motion.
All right, we have a motion by Michelle and a second I heard from Paul. And we can have more discussion. I concur. I with the Planning Commission. I'm a fan of sidewalks, not shoveling them, but I'm a fan of them otherwise. And I want to thank the developer and the developer's team for coming back with this proposal. I think it's a much better proposal than we saw the last time, and I appreciate all their hard work in trying to make this happen. But I will agree with the motion and including keeping the sidewalks in. So, other comments before we vote?
Mayor George here.
George, go ahead.
I know if I was going to be purchasing one of those lots up there, I would be asking what side of the street does not have the sidewalk for shoveling purposes. But I know Paul Schulmeyer can concur with this, is that like the home that he's moving out of now and in the area that we're in, we don't have sidewalks, but we have 150-foot driveways and that are probably 5 to 6 feet wide, maybe even 7 feet wide. And that's a little easier to shovel than the sidewalk, but it's kind of a, you know, split apart, sidewalk or driveway. So.
Councilman Thurley here with a comment. I just wanted to thank the developer and city staff for providing the pre-council meeting as well as a comprehensive series of information that I think has helped me, and I'm sure others on council, better understand the proposal and how the Planning Commission came to the decision that they are recommending to us that we're voting on tonight. So thanks again.
Councilmember Schulmeyer.
Go ahead, Paul.
I want to thank the developer for coming back. I'm looking forward to this development. I also want to thank the Planning Commission. I read their notes. They had a fairly in-depth conversation about bulk water management and the sidewalks. And I know in the past that we've had many developments, as the developer outlined, without sidewalks. And I think that was a mistake. And you know, it's part of our ordinance now. And I really believe that if we don't want that to happen, then we should change the ordinance. But I think it's a good one, and I'm glad we're moving in that direction, and I think it will make this a better development.
Any other comments? Are we ready to vote? All right, we'll vote by roll call.
Mayor Peterson,
Aye.
Councilman Thurley,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Alexander,
Aye.
Iden,
Aye.
Warshakowski,
Aye.
Strohmeyer.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item.
Moving on to the petitions, communications, item 3.1 is reappointment to the Citizens Environmental Quality Committee of Daniel Hall.
I, Michelle Alexander, move to approve that request.
I, Pam Iden, second that.
All right, maybe it's because Paul's here in the council chambers with me, but Michelle, I heard your motion and Paul's second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Mayor Peterson.
Aye.
Councilman Thurley,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Alexander,
Aye.
Iden,
Aye.
Warshakowski,
Aye.
Strohmeyer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 3.2, reappointments to the Planning Commission of Dale Betcher, Todd Paddock, and Peter Shortridge.
I, Michelle Alexander, move approval of that request.
I, Pam Iden, second that.
All right, a motion by Michelle, seconded by Pam. Any discussion?
Bless you.
Thank you.
We'll vote by roll call.
Mayor Peterson,
Aye.
Councilman Thurley,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Alexander.
Aye.
Iden,
Aye.
Warshakowski,
Aye.
Strohmeyer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 3.3, appointment to the Fine Arts Commission of Caitlin McCoy.
I, Michelle Alexander, move approval of that request.
I, Pam Iden, second that.
All right, motion by Michelle, seconded by Pam. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Mayor Peterson,
Aye.
Councilman Thurley,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Alexander,
Aye.
Iden,
Aye.
Warshakowski,
Aye.
Strohmeyer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 3.4 is the sign request from the River Arts Alliance.
I, Michelle Alexander, move approval of that request.
I, Pam Iden, second that.
Again, motion by Michelle, seconded by Pam. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Mayor Peterson,
Aye.
Councilman Thurley,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Alexander.
Aye.
Iden,
Aye.
Borzakowski,
Aye.
Stolmeyer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 3.5 is a request from the Main Street program to host a Halloween event on October 31st.
I, Michelle Alexander, move approval of that request. And may I just say, it looks like fun.
I, Pam Iden, second it, and I will be there.
Again, Michelle moves and Pam seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Mayor Peterson,
Aye.
Councilman Thurley,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Alexander,
Aye.
Iden,
Aye.
Borzakowski,
Aye.
Stolmeyer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 3.6 is an update on the TCMC passenger rail service by Councilman Schollmeyer.
Thank you. I just, what I wanted to do was update my colleagues on council about the good news from the Federal Railroad Administration that they have granted the TCMC second train $31.8 million for federal capital grant to really make the improvements, primarily, many of them or most of that, in Winona. And those improvements will not only aid the TCMC second train, passenger train from Chicago to St. Paul, but will greatly assist freight movement in the Winona area. There's really about 19.2 million of that 31.8 is designated for construction work and side rails and in the Winona area that would allow trains to move aside. That's what a side rail is for, so that other trains can move through. This would obviously assist passenger traffic. This is really a $19 million construction jobs project for the city of Winona. The federal government has committed the money, $31.8 million. Wisconsin has committed $6.2 million to projects in their area. Amtrak has committed $3.8 million and future $1.2 million, so $5 million. Most of that will be for station and facility upgrades here in Winona. Unfortunately, the state of Minnesota we're still waiting for the state of Minnesota to come up with their 10 million to help this project go through. My request to my colleagues and to those listening is to reach out to your elected representatives and to leaders in the Minnesota State Senate and State House to encourage them to add the $10 million commitment into Minnesota bonding bill. So this is really good news for the city. We really need the state of Minnesota to come through. And I thank you for the time to bring this update to the public.
Well, thank you, Paul, and thank you for your service on this commission.
Moving
All right,
on.
next item.
Item 3.7 is request for stop sign investigation on 7th near Kansas.
I'd make a motion to approve the attached ordinance. Michelle Alexander, sorry, Mark.
I, Pam
Eileen,
Iden.
I second.
All right, motion by Michelle, and I'm going to give it to Eileen. I think she was tied with Pam. So,
Councilmember Schollmeyer.
Go ahead, Paul.
I think this would be great. Those of us who bike on 7th Street will appreciate this. And I know I've had conversations with the city engineer about through streets in the past, and this does aid cycling. I'm going to ask again if we can remove the stop signs on 7th at Lafayette and at Center Street, so that and there's one also at Walnut, so that we can be through from Franklin to Maine. Otherwise, I think this is a fine idea.
All right, thank you. Any other comments?
Mayor George here.
George, go ahead.
I mean, what are we going to investigate? Let's just vote to put the sign in and take care of it right now.
I would agree with that, Michelle Alexander.
Pam, I would also agree.
Brian wants to comment.
That's actually the motion you already made. So yeah, you'd just be voting on it at this point.
Okay, it did say investigate though, George. You're right, it did.
Okay.
All right, so if we pass this, we will be putting a stop sign in.
Okay.
Any other comments? Okay, we'll vote by roll call.
Mayor Peterson,
Aye.
Councilman Thurley,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Alexander,
Aye.
Iden,
Aye.
Worzikowski,
Aye.
Schollmeyer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Item 3.8 is a request for no parking school zone area to be added on Kansas Street for St. Martin's Lutheran School.
I, Michelle Alexander, make a motion to approve the attached ordinance.
Eileen,
Pam,
I second. Sorry, Pam.
We got a real competition going here.
Yeah.
Motion by Michelle and seconded by Eileen. Any comments? If not, we'll vote by roll call.
Mayor Peterson,
Aye.
Councilman Thurley,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Alexander,
Aye.
Iden,
Aye.
Worzikowski,
Aye.
Schollmeyer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Under new business, item 5.1 is the electric vehicle fast charging grant considerations. And John Howard is on the call if you have questions.
Can we get John to talk a little bit about this?
Sure. John, would you want to give everybody a little update on this?
Sure. Yes. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me fine?
Sure.
Great. Well, yes. The good news is that the city of Winona has been placed or been considered as a favorable location for a fast charger as part of the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency's second round of fast charger grants. As you may recall, there was a first round, and Winona was not on the map of eligible areas. It's great news because a fast charger is a rather expensive piece of infrastructure, typically in the neighborhood of $50,000 or more. So this grant would cover the bulk of that cost, up to 80% of the cost. And the kind of consideration for the council in this case is it is a corridor grant, so that the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency is looking for a proposal that would cover the entire corridor with charging stations, and therefore it's not really something an individual city can easily do. So it really it's designed more for a private developers or a regional approach. And what the city staff has considered is kind of the best approach is to try to work with a private developer, people who have put in charging infrastructure in the past, who won the grant in the first round, to help to devise where a charger would go in the Winona area. And so that would also reduce kind of the staff burden of having to prepare the application, as well as adding some technical expertise to the proposal. So all I'm asking for this evening is to get concurrence from council that the staff should try to find and work with developers on this proposal rather than coming up with one on our own. Or we could also take the approach of really just letting the chips fall where they may with a private developer, but staff believes it would be advantageous to work on developing working with the developer on a proposal.
Mark, Michelle.
Go ahead, Michelle.
What would the cost to the city be in option 2?
The cost would likely be under $5,000. There is the potential of the match cost having to be borne by the city, but very likely the case would be that Excel Energy has a program that would install conduit and some of the other electrical upgrades, which would count as the match. And so that could cover a very substantial portion of the required match dollars. And the city would then would be responsible for covering the kind of whatever that Excel match wouldn't cover. So my anticipation is that the Excel match would probably be in the $15,000 to $20,000 range, and under $5,000 for the city. There is kind of future considerations of how the city would own, if we would own the charger or not, but that would be dependent on the developer. So there might be some costs in the future, but at this point in time, we'd have to work with the developer to find what those costs might be. But I can't say at this point in terms of the application, probably a few $1,000s.
So if we're partnering with private entities and they're charging for it, who sees the income from the charge, and why would the private entities want to work with us when they could do it on their own? Or what would the benefit for us be to work with them if they're going to see the income from the charging station or the cost covered for having the charging station versus us who would cover the cost?
Yeah, a fast charger typically is not probably a great monetary investment. The main benefit would be to provide the capacity for tourists and others to stop in Winona and to visit Winona. That would be the main benefit. The advantage of the city being involved would be to help devise a site that would put Winona's best foot forward to visitors and those who are passing through town. The way the grant is structured, the way the Minnesota Pollution Control has structured the grant, it's very likely Winona would get a location, but there is still the possibility that the developer could decide to go to a different community. Winona is suggested but not guaranteed. So by the city participating, we would ensure or greatly increase the odds that the charge would be put here in Winona rather than in a different community or outside the city limits.
So John, if I understand this correctly, level 2 is a fast charge for like an hour of stop. Let's say it takes 20 minutes to charge. They're going to stop for an hour, let's say. But this has to go along the corridor, which is Highway 61, which is not exactly beneficial to our downtown or shopping. Where would we be looking to put one of these devices that would be beneficial to the city?
Well, under the grant rules, the stopover location I think can be within 1.5 miles of the designated corridor. So theoretically, almost any place in the downtown area would still meet those requirements. And in doing some research in the first round, about 75% of the chargers went into kind of downtown, or they weren't right off the highway corridor. I think the role of the city would be to say where would be an ideal spot in the downtown area. That would be probably the most advantageous for our businesses and for kind of a tourism perspective to get folks to come into town.
And then why do we need a private partner? Wouldn't it make more sense to partner with other cities then?
Ordinarily, I would say yes. The specifics of the Pollution Control Agency grant is that it has to be an entire corridor. And the way our corridor is structured is there's two pieces. There's the Red Wing to La Crescent, and then there's the Albert Lee to the South Dakota border. And so if it was just La Crescent to Red Wing, that's a more manageable task. But as part of this grant, we would have to put a proposal in that would cover basically I-90 from Albert Lee for 150 miles west, or whatever it is to the South Dakota border. So that makes it, I think, infeasible for us to try putting on that coordination. I think Red Wing has charging, La Crescent has charging, and we could work with them easily, but to try to do the rest of the corridors, I think is beyond our capabilities.
And where do you see the funding coming from to cover the city's potential portion of this at up to 5,000? You're thinking, where would you see that money coming from?
I have not kind of earmarked or designated any funding. So that would be a question that would still need to be resolved. We would have probably another year to determine exactly where that would come from. In terms of the application, there's going to be a good portion of time before that money would need to be arranged. But that would be a question, I think, to resolve, certainly.
So you're saying not to be part of the 2020 or 2021 budgeting monies, you're thinking potentially 2022?
Well, I would, this would probably be a question we have to ask for the developer who wins the grant, exactly when they're anticipating building. My guess is that we would be okay for putting into the 2021, 2022 budget.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for so many questions, guys.
Al here with a few questions, John.
Okay, Al, go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing it to our attention. I assume what you're asking us for is permission to go ahead and explore this, and then at some point in time, come back with your research and determine what you or staff would recommend would be the best approach for the city. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Exactly. Thank you.
Councilmember Schoenmeyer.
Go ahead, Paul.
John, I have a couple of questions. Looking at the packet, you have charge point part of the packet. Is that just as an example?
Yes, I found this to be one of the best summaries of the different technologies. ChargePoint would very likely be putting forward an application. They are the largest kind of charging company out there. But this was more for informational purposes than to say ChargePoint would be the entity that would win the grant or we would work with.
I would hope that we would look at some alternatives as well from ChargePoint. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I mean, Winona's drive-by. We're drive-by territory right now, people. EVs are going from Red Wing to La Crosse, and the heck with Winona. They're not stopping at our stores. They're not using our hotels. It's about time we start welcoming people to the community and get on it. This is the future of automobiles. And so, we're way behind the eight ball on this. And I really strongly encourage that we go ahead with this.
All right.
I'll make that
George here.
Go ahead, George.
Yeah, thank you. Now, Steve, in our budget, as one of the options, it was to, I think, allocate $5,000 for charging stations, which of course we did not put in at all. We did not exercise that option. And of course, we can't do it now because that would raise the levy on it. But we're looking for money, as I believe, just so I'm clear on this, not in this current budget or next year's budget, but the one after, correct?
Mayor and Council, I believe that's correct. All we're really asking right now is for the council, with the understanding that we have, to process this application. We still have to come back. It could even be that we could work out a situation with the business where this is located, and they could pitch in as well. So we would still come back with a full package before we'd actually agree and sign on the dotted line. So the council would know where the money is coming from, if there is any requirement from the city to begin with.
Okay, like I say, just looking at the options we have, I certainly would support, I guess, probably option number 2. And then again, option 1, I guess, coordinate with other cities. That seems to be as well too. So I guess I would support option 1 or 2, 1 and 2.
Well, I can make that.
I
make some motion to instruct staff to explore opportunities with private developers, which is option 2 on the grant application.
George will second that.
All right, motion by Michelle and seconded by George.
Sorry, Paul.
That's quite all right. Good job getting done.
It's just hard to hear sometimes who's talking.
All right, any other discussion? We'll vote by roll call.
Mayor Peterson.
Aye.
Councilman Thurley.
Aye.
Moeller.
Aye.
Alexander.
Aye.
Iden.
Aye.
Warshakowski.
Aye.
Schoenmeyer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 5.2 is the Minnesota Historical and Cultural Heritage Grant Agreement for the John Latch Wagon Bridge evaluation.
I, Michelle Alexander, make a motion to approve the attached resolution and enter to the grant agreement.
George will second that.
All right, motion by Michelle and seconded by Paul. Any discussion? All right, we'll vote by roll call.
Mayor Peterson.
Aye.
Councilman Thurley.
Aye.
Moeller.
Aye.
Alexander.
Aye.
Iden.
Aye.
Worzakowski.
Aye.
Solmeyer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And item 5.3 is the West Rec Center exterior building mural.
I, Michelle Alexander, make a motion to approve the West Recreation Center mural project.
Eileen seconds.
All right, motion by Michelle and an enthusiastic second by Eileen.
Yay for the West End. Yay for the West End.
Any comments or questions?
Eileen has one.
All right, go ahead, Eileen.
Just that I am so excited about this. I'm so grateful to Zach for doing the legwork on this and bringing it to the Fine Arts Commission and to the Fine Arts Commission for moving it forward to us. I really, really hope that this sets a precedent for more painted buildings in our city, because I live a block away from this and I'm so excited to see it every day. I think that it's going to be a great, the skate park is already a really great asset to our neighborhood, and this is just going to level it up. So I'm very excited.
I have a question. It says the grants from the Winona Foundation. Is that the Winona Community Foundation? Or the Winona Foundation in Seattle?
Council Mayor, this is Carrie Frederick from the Fine Arts Commission.
Okay.
This is from the Winona Foundation, not the Winona Community Foundation.
Just wanted to be clear. Thank you.
Yep.
Mark, Michelle Alexander.
Pardon?
I said Michelle Alexander. I just want to make a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
I just am so thankful to the Fine Arts Commission for finding this grant that allows them to pay an artisan or an artist to come in and create beautiful spots throughout the community, especially on some of our buildings or tiny little areas that maybe could use a little spruce. And I think it's going to look quite fantastic when it's done. I'm very excited to see them promoting our local artists this way and working with not only city buildings, but other community organizations to make these things happen.
All right. I think we're ready to vote by roll call.
Mayor Peterson.
Aye.
Councilman Thurley.
Aye.
Moeller.
Aye.
Alexander.
Aye.
Iden.
Aye.
Worzakowski.
Aye.
Solmeyer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Item 7.1 is council concerns.
We'll start with the first word. Al.
Thanks, Mayor. I read with interest a post from our police fire folks about compliance for monitoring parties and things. Apparently it had been going well, and now apparently this last weekend it's not been going so well. So I would encourage everyone to pay attention, be careful, and you know, it's still here and you need to take precautions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Eileen, second word.
I have a couple questions. One is, since we were doing the stop signs along 7th Street, I had asked a couple weeks ago about 4th Street, particularly 4th and Grand, which is uncontrolled. And I don't know if Brian is still on, but
Brian's still here.
Okay. He did look at it, and based on what he told me, I would like to request that we do a similar look at 4th Street, like we're looking at 7th, from Huff till it dead ends at the Aquatic Center, because the majority of those intersections are uncontrolled. And Brian said the safest option would be to look at putting stop signs at all of those cross streets. for consistency, so drivers know what to expect. So I don't know if we can look at that for a future council meeting, but those are all can be pretty dicey intersections, whether you're walking or driving or biking. So just, and I've had people ask me about other ones along 4th Street too. So just wanted to ask about that. Since we have more people using our trails and we're talking about a development where there's possibly going to be some trails, there are a couple of trailheads that I see get a lot of use. And I've seen a lot of people out with their dogs, and I'm wondering if it's possible at all to put some garbage cans at some of the trailheads. I was walking with my dog and I walked for like 3 to 5 miles with bags of poop. And I don't know that other hikers persevere that much. So if there's any way, I mean, I walked up to a trailhead specifically thinking, oh, there'll be a garbage can up here, and there wasn't. And so I just had to keep walking, but just so we have as little pollution in our bluffland as possible. And also a reminder to people to leash your dogs in public areas. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. 3rd Ward, Pam.
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
All right, go to the 4th Ward, George.
Oh, boy, I got extra time now, huh?
No.
Brian Dufresne, is he on here yet?
He's still here.
Yeah, Brian, if I could just ask you, I know you and I have talked on this, if you could just clarify just a couple of things with these roundabouts that you're talking out on Mankato Avenue. I know it is not a done deal. There's still meetings going on. In fact, I believe we have one here in the month of October. But now, in regards to the roundabouts, the one on Mankato and Sarnia, MnDOT needs consent from the city of Winona to construct that one, correct?
That is correct. Sarnia, or the north leg would be ours. The north leg on Mankato would be ours, 100% our right of way. So that's where they need consent on that one. Correct.
Okay. And then the next two, which would be in the center, and the one out on 14 and 61, which is bringing most of the discussion, that roundabout, do they need city consent to build the one out on Highway 61, 1443?
The way the municipal consent law works is they only actually need municipal consent if they're touching our right of way. That one is completely within their right of way. So, I mean, let's just go total far end of the deal. If that's the only one that they constructed, they would not need any municipal consent on that 1461 roundabout, correct?
Okay, then what about the other two in between?
The one on Frontenac on the lakeside, they'll be touching some of our right of way. And the one near, I guess we'll call it the Target entrance, that one they're touching some of our right of way also. So those would also need consent.
Okay, but the 61 and 14 does not need any city consent. They can go right ahead and build that.
They have a very large amount of right of way on that one. So yeah, that does not touch any of ours whatsoever. But to go on with your comments there, we do have a public forum virtual set up for the 21st of October. So 2.5 weeks from now. 5:30, like I say, it's going to be virtual. I think they use WebEx. They plan on sending something out tomorrow. You could either email them questions and concerns preceding this forum, or go ahead and email them to me. If you don't know their address, just email it to me and I'll give it to them also. But they want to do at least this one more public type of forum prior to bringing municipal consent to council. They're looking at either November or December for municipal consent at this point. Obviously, they may change, but at this point, they're looking November, December.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And then also I see across the river now that they are beginning to mill and overlay or to grind it up, the pavement there leading to the old high wagon bridge. And that is certainly a well-needed project, and I'm glad to see that that project is taking hold. And then also, I just want to comment on one thing, that there was some conversation brought up about out at the Maplewood Townhomes about activities and things for children. And, just simply, as some people may know or may not know, but for the past 12 years, Kids First has provided nightly homework help, enrichment, and recreation activities for students K through 12 living in the Maplewood neighborhood. We have about 150 Winona State University teacher education volunteers. Wow, 150. And 5 staff carrying out programming that provides art, sports, cooking, yoga, and academic enrichment. This started out with about 3 to 5 kids, and right now it pretty much serves about 70 to 75 children a day. And in discussion with our executive director of the housing, hey, if anybody wants to volunteer to help out, give her a call, and they certainly can get you involved in helping out there. But I just wanted to share that there are activities, and very good activities, that are happening out there for the children in that neighborhood. Thank you.
All right, thank you, George. At large, Councilwoman Michelle.
Thanks, Mark. I don't have any real concerns, but I do want to give a shout out to the Fine Arts Commission and Lee Gundesheimer. I watched with interest as sidewalks were replaced and poems were stamped into the sidewalks. So I encourage Winona to take a little walk this fall, maybe this weekend. When you're on your way to the cemetery walk, just swing by the downtown, check out some of the poems that have been stamped into the 3rd Street, Center Streets, and I'm not sure where else they may have gone, but it makes for an interesting day.
All right, thank you. Councilman at large, Schulmeyer.
Thank you. So the poetry walk, I'm really excited about that. And who is going to be the first person to take a picture after the first snow shovel of the year over the poetry walks, because that will really make those poems pop. Thank you, Public Works Director / City Engineer Dufresne, for staying through our meeting today. I noticed yesterday when I was at the left turn signal on westbound 14 to turn on to eastbound Service Drive at the restaurant there, that the green arrow is not working. So if you could reach out to MnDOT or somebody.
Are you talking right on Cottonwood there?
Yeah, so Cottonwood goes to the west and Service Drive goes to the east.
Okay. Yep. We'll do.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Moving on to the consent agenda, we have 4 items. Approval of the minutes for September 21st. The adoption of 3 ordinances, 1 to zone the parcel at 22-839 County Road 17. Ordinance to add stop signs at Harriet and Wilson, and an ordinance to set the fees for 2021, including the approval of the summary publication.
I'll thoroughly move approval of the consent agenda.
Eileen seconds.
Motion by Al, seconded by Eileen. Any discussion? Hearing none. We'll vote by roll call.
Mayor Peterson.
Aye.
Councilman Thurley.
Aye.
Moeller.
Aye.
Alexander.
Aye.
Iden.
Aye.
Worzikowski.
Aye.
And Schulmeyer.
Aye.
Mayor, there are no objections. I move that we adjourn.
Eileen seconds.
All right, a motion by George and seconded by Eileen. We'll vote by roll call.
Mayor Peterson.
Aye.
Councilman Thurley.
Aye.
Moeller.
Aye.
Alexander.
Aye.
Iden.
Aye.
Worzikowski.
Aye.
And Schulmeyer.
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good evening.
Good night.